Welcome to this edition of Safety First. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. Today we're talking with Lieutenant Teresa Monroe with the Suffolk Fire and Rescue Department about car seat safety and car seat installation, two very important topics for parents and care providers to make sure that the little ones are safe and secure inside all the vehicles that we transport them in and around the city of Suffolk and, of course, the Hampton Roads area. Lieutenant Monroe, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for coming out.
Let's talk about, first up, what are the rules? What does the state law say that parents and care providers need to do when they have children in vehicles? You know, what are the weight limits, the ages? What are we talking about when we talk? What are the rules?
Well, state law states that children have to remain in an appropriate child safety seat until the age of 8. Unfortunately, a lot of children aren't big enough to actually come out of a seat by the time they're 8 years old. Then there's other recommendations, but it's not covered under state law.
Okay.
Current recommendations, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, is children need to remain rear-facing till the age of 2 and the upper weight limits of their child safety seat.
Right.
Minimum by state law was 1 and 20 pounds, but the recommendation is now till age 2. Then they can be turned around, placed in the appropriate seat, and the seats actually range in weights all the way up to upwards of 80 pounds now.
Right.
You know, so we have booster seats, infant carriers, and convertible seats are all covered under that. And it's now a primary law in the state of Virginia that a child has to be in a child safety seat. So if the officer sees the child standing up in the side seat, they can actually pull you now.
Didn't know that. Now, what about front seat? You know, if you have a vehicle, it's got a front, front and back, it's not a one-seater or a truck or something like that where you have situations. But front seat, what are the rules on that? Or what are the safety precautions that parents and care providers should take?
There's no current law that states the child has to be in the front or back,
right,
but it is recommended children under the age of 12 ride in the back.
Got it.
Any child under the age of 16 is required to wear a seatbelt. According to state law. Over the age of 16, if they are riding anywhere besides the driver's seat and say you're driving and we get pulled over and the 13-year-old or the 17-year-old's riding with you, they get the ticket, not you.
Got it.
Over the age of 16, they get their own separate ticket for not being properly restrained.
So that means they're responsible at that point in time for that.
Yes, over the age of 16.
Now, of course, I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but the use of a car seat and seat belts and things like that, I mean, common sense says if you're in an accident, you're going to be safer if those devices are in place.
Oh, definitely.
And obviously, again, just with for an infant or a small child, just the normal jostling of a vehicle. I mean, you know, whether you are in an accident or not, there's injuries that can take place inside the vehicle if they're not properly secure. Correct?
Oh, definitively, yes. With the big thing with them being rear-facing till the age of 2 is they have weaker neck muscles, even though they're walking. You know, from 8 months on, some of them, the neck muscles aren't developed. They have such a larger head, so you gotta think when they fall, first thing they hit is their head most times. So when they're rear-facing, the seat actually acts as a cushion and holds the entire body in alignment, so you don't have all that pull forward. Because most of our wrecks are forward.
Correct.
We run into more stuff than it runs into us.
Correct. So again, you have if you're sitting back there, the head coming forward is going to. And what type of injuries can occur when something like that happens to a small child? Small
children, we have spinal cord injuries. That's our biggest one because it only has a limited amount of stretch. But now as the children get older, you know, they face forward. The 5-point restraint helps hold torso and head in position. And then as we move into lap and shoulder belts, it still helps keep the torso and everything up against the back of the seat.
Got it. Now, of course, you talked about off the top the fact that the different types of car seats, and it kind of evolves as the child grows and evolves for him or herself there. Just talk about how that transition works from, you know, you bring an infant home from the hospital, everybody wants to get them home and excited, but again, you need to start out safe and end safe by basically carrying it all the way through to you just having the booster seat or whatever at the end.
Yeah.
Talk us through that progression.
Most parents start off with an infant carrier, or it's an infant-only rear-facing seat. Some actually start out with a convertible seat. Depending on the seat itself, most seats will either go from birth to has an upper weight of 20, 30 pounds for rear-facing, or it is labeled as 5 pounds. Our children, because we have a lot of premature babies, they're coming home earlier and earlier. I've seen them send them home at 3.5 pounds.
Right.
But then they have to go through their physician, and they have the respiratory therapist and all this other stuff that goes along in conjunction with it.
Sure.
Rear-facing only seats traditionally now go to either 22 or 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And then they convert to a convertible seat, and some of those go up to 40 pounds now. The new regulations are getting so much safer, and the seats are, you may look at a seat that was made last year and one that was made this year. It looks like the same seat. It's been tested 2 different ways. The weight limits are different.
Okay.
So you have to take whatever's printed on the side.
Got it.
Then they turn around. Some of the forward-facing seats usually go 5-point harness to 40 pounds. I've seen them upwards of 65 now.
Okay.
So new technology, better technology, different testing. A lot of our kids are heavier. They're better fed than they were 20 years ago.
Right.
And they have a whole array of test dummies that they use at the Crash Test Institutes, where a lot of this comes from.
So when parents or care providers are going out to choose that either that first car seat or maybe a little along the way when they're getting moving to an upgraded model, so to speak, what are things to look for both on the packaging and maybe if you're looking at a demo seat on the rack in a store? What are some things to look at?
The biggest thing is there's a couple things that we look for all the time. One is if you're going to get a new child safety seat, you want to make sure that it's the one that it's going to fit your budget. It's going to fit your vehicle, because not all these seats fit in every vehicle.
Okay.
It fits the child. It's the most appropriate for that child. And there's weight limits on the side. If you have a huskier child, you may want a seat that goes to the upper weight limits.
Right.
And it's a seat you're going to use correctly every time. If it's complicated and you don't understand it, you're not going to put it in right. You're not going to put the child in it right. So those are the big things we look for. Those are the four main ones. Fit your budget, fit your car, fit your kid, and you're going to use correctly every time.
Right. And when you talk about using correctly every time, I mean, certainly, a parent, you're trying to get the child in the car, you got bags, you got things. If you have multiple children, you got other things going on. But I mean, you really need to remember every time to go through the proper procedures because you don't want that false sense of security, correct?
Exactly. And most of the seats, they get installed in the car. If it's an infant seat only, most of them come with a base, and you can buy an extra base if you have two vehicles.
Right.
That way, if you're taking the child and you're dropping it off at daycare, you can take the whole seat, leave it at daycare, dad comes, puts it in his car.
Right.
Fits both of them.
Sure.
Super duper easy. And once the seat's in there, unless we have families that are like in from town or out of town and this, that, there's not a lot of jostling.
Right.
So they stay pretty much in that spot until you clean it. You have to take all the cookies and French fries out from underneath it once in a while. Yeah, I've encountered some interesting things.
I would imagine you have.
Just
Probably scary sometimes too, depending upon what's hidden up in there, right?
Mom be like, wonder where that went. It's like, you find the 3 extra binkies that nobody could find.
Right.
Yeah,
Science experiment type stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
A little creepy at times. Well, let's talk about what fire and rescue does to help our citizens and kind of be safe and get that education out there. Let's talk about what the program that's in place right now. What if someone is going to be purchasing a car seat, maybe already has one, and I can't figure out how to put this thing in there. What can people do?
Well, the big thing is right now, because we're in the middle of revamping our program, so there's a few limited locations they can go to. They can contact headquarters, and they will send us an email telling us, giving us their home information. We'll call them, set up an appointment, have them come to the fire station, and we can install the seat. We have noodles in-house where we can go through a correct angle, which I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Sure.
Plus, we'll check recalls, because seats get recalled for all numbers of reasons.
Right.
And the parents don't always send the little card in because they're afraid they're going to get a bunch of junk mail. They're not. The only thing they're going to get is recall information.
Right.
And the recall could be something as silly as the warning sticker was printed in the wrong color yellow. Or it could be something as serious as a buckle's letting loose when it's not supposed to, or it's getting jammed up and you can't open it.
Right.
So we'll check recalls because we keep a current list in the station at all times. I actually get an email anytime a new recall comes out. We'll check, make sure the seat belt or how we're installing it, and we'll do a little schooling while they're here, showing them how to put their own seat in.
Got to make them comfortable so when they walk out, they know they can do it again every time. Just got to remember to take care of that.
Yeah,
Correct?
so they can repeat it.
Right.
And then we tell them, if they get out and they get in a bind, they can always come back and see us again.
Right.
We try to educate those so that we don't have to see them every 6 weeks when they decide to move the seat.
Right, and we don't want you showing up every time they have to put the car seat in, right? Exactly. But again, and the charge for the service is free.
It's
correct?
free, exactly. It's a public service we offer. We do not provide seats because it's just it's a budgetary thing. And we used to occasionally get them from the state, but their budget's been a little tighter too.
I understand. But of course, again, the key is you get the seat, and again, make sure it fits the child, and then you can help them work on getting comfortable with the installation and everything. So we talked about installation. So now what we're going to do is head on over to a vehicle that we have here, and you'll go and take us through the installation of a couple different types of seats.
Definitely.
Because again, it's not one size fits all. You talked about the seat fitting the vehicle as much as it obviously does the child, but also just the particulars of it because everyone's a little bit different, right?
There's thousands of combinations. That's why the class that we teach the firefighters is 3.5 days.
Right.
Of classroom time.
Very intense, but again, a very important topic. And the key is making sure the children stay safe, correct?
Yep, definitely.
All right, well, we're going to go head over to the vehicle and get started on that right now. And Lieutenant, you want to tell us kind of what kind of seat we have here and kind of get us started?
This is the base for a rear-facing only seat, which is for your newborns. I think the one I have goes up to 30 pounds. There's a couple different ways we can install these. They only go rear-facing, though. So with this one, because we have new technology in the vehicles, we have what's called a lower anchor system, which you can see them in the bottom here. They're little bars. That means you don't need the seat belt at all. There's a button, there'll be like a little button with a symbol on it in your vehicle if you have it. Any vehicle made after 2005 usually has them. With these, you have your newer seats have the little clips here, and it's super duper easy. You just put them in, hear the click, put it in again, and you hear the click. With this one, it has an adjustable base so we can get our angle appropriately. We want to have the children at a 45-degree angle when they're newborns because they don't have the muscular strength to keep their heads up. So you're going to push the seat back, make sure the foot is down. This one twists. And then you kind of climb in here a little bit.
Okay.
I take my knee because being a female, I'm not quite as arm strength as the guys.
Right.
Take my knee, push it against the seat, so I'm pushing towards the back of the seat. Grab the little strap here, and you just pull. And then I'm going to take my other hand, push down, and pull. Our goal is to have less than an inch of side-to-side movement at the belt path. So right here. And see, I didn't struggle that hard,
no.
And it's in. It's in appropriately, and then you double check. Some of them have a little balance on them,
right.
Some don't. But you can double check by sitting your seat in, if I can make it lock in here. And it's locked in.
Okay.
This one's ready for travel. The thing, another thing you need to check when you have the child in the seat is make sure that the shoulder harnesses, when we're rear facing, is at or below the top of the shoulders, and you don't want to be able to pinch the straps. If you can pinch the straps, they're too loose.
Got it.
But these are great for your little new guys, and when you got parents with, both parents work, one drops off, the other picks up. Perfect thing, or if grandma needs to pick up. Super easy to install. We have a second way to put these in.
Okay.
Because if your vehicle is not one of the newer ones and it doesn't have the lower anchors,
Right.
we undo the lower anchors here. And it's just a reverse of what we did to put it in.
Okay.
If you need to use the seat belts, what you do is you feed the seat belt through the exact same path. This one has its own lock off, which is wonderful. It saves you having to put extra material on it. But you lock it in. And with this one, you can, same thing, push, pull. We're going to pull it tight, and then we're going to lay this across and lock down.
Got it.
And it's in. It's in tight. It's not going to can off to one side.
Right.
It saves that whole rear-facing quandary.
Gotcha. Now, one thing statistically, you talked about, when we were off camera before, about in Tidewater especially, people not properly installing them and having them set right. I mean, that's a pretty high percentage, right?
It is. Tidewater in general is about a 90% misinstall rate. Some of them are as simple as forward-facing seat and they don't know to change the retractor on their seat belts. Our seat belts are designed now that if you lock it in and you pull it all the way out,
right.
You hear it click.
Correct.
It's a ratchet. I mean, it turns it into a locking retractor, so it won't get any longer.
Right.
Parents don't know that that's in there. It's not something that's printed on the seat belt, so
Right.
they just don't know about it.
Right.
And a nice resource is your owner's manual of your vehicle.
Okay. Now, another thing, as far as we talk about car seats, they have expiration dates.
Yes,
and I think
they
that's
do.
something that people don't realize. And if you're picking one up secondhand, or you're an older model that maybe a relative or somebody used, again, no damage or harm intended, but they expire, correct?
They do. They expire on average of about 6 years is
Okay.
the average expiration date. It's stamped on the seat itself. If you don't know the history of the seat, don't use it.
Right.
Because it may have been involved in a crash and you not realize something's broken. Or if you happen to see stress marks, like this seat here is stressed from repeated installs
Right.
because we use it for training.
Correct. But over time, again, the materials start to break down, and you want to have something that obviously, again, is going to do what it's designed to do, correct?
Yeah, our vehicles get up to 140 degrees in the summer.
Right.
So they get hot, they get cold, they get hot, they get cold, and the actual plastic starts to degrade.
Right.
So in order to keep our little people safe, about 6 years is the average life expectancy of a seat.
But again, as you noted, it should be on the seat itself, so
Yes.
we kind of look for that. Certainly, if you're getting it new, it should be okay, but still want to maybe check it just so you know you have X amount of time to use the seat.
Oh,
correct?
definitely. And all of them have pretty much like a born on date.
Right.
Like this one has its manufacturer date. I don't don't know when it was manufactured. 10/27/05.
Right.
So this one actually is expired.
Correct.
But it's
again,
a trainer only.
It's a testing seat. That's right. I
Yes,
understand.
trainer only.
Okay. Now that's one type of seat. You have another seat.
I sure do.
You can show us.
This one is a convertible seat. This one goes up to children for up to 40 pounds. It can be used forward or rear facing.
Okay.
There's an adjustment here in the back that puts for forward facing. And we're going to install it today using, oh, I didn't get it set up too good, using the, we'll do it with the lap and shoulder belt. Something parents don't realize what it's for is this strap here. This is the top tether.
Got it.
Top tethers, everybody's vehicle has one. If it's made after 1998,
Right.
it has a top tether anchor.
Got it.
Some of them are a little hidden. Parents don't realize where they are. They accidentally use cargo latches
Right.
in the back if they have an SUV. This one's hidden all the way behind the seat.
Got it.
And it's got a little anchor on it.
Right.
So we know that's what it's for. So you thread it underneath the headrest. You have to clip this one on first before you put the seat the rest of the way in.
Got it.
Set the seat back. We're going to use the lap and shoulder belt. And again, it's just threading through the appropriate belt path. This one has two because it's a convertible seat. Buckle in. Going to pull the seat belt all the way out. So we change over the retractor. Weight the seat, use my knee. Pull all the way forward there, and then if I can reach the tether, which I've got it too tight, we're going to pull the tether tight.
Okay.
We want less than an inch of side-to-side movement at the belt path, which we have. See, I didn't struggle,
That's right. No.
didn't break a sweat, and
Right.
less than an inch of forward motion at the top at the head.
And certainly all these seats come with, installation instructions and not.
They do.
But sometimes it's nice to have someone show you and you kind of feel your way through it rather than just reading it and trying to, well, I think I've got it. And like you said, the statistics sometimes prove out that it's not always, unfortunately, most of the time it seems like statistically you're saying it's not like it's supposed to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of combinations.
Right.
So sometimes you have to make the best choice for that vehicle.
Correct.
Or that seat combination. A lot of gotta remember, our vehicles are made for adults. They're made for adult comfort. We're the ones that buy them.
Right.
So if you have like a scooped out seat, something as simple as a pool noodle
Right.
may be what you need to get the appropriate level on a rear facing only seat. But cheap and easy. This is, I think, a 40-cent part.
Yeah. Which can make a big difference.
It can. It can
Yes.
make the difference between it fitting appropriately or not. And pool noodles don't melt either, so they're kind of nice. They don't stain your seats.
Now, when you talk to parents about car seat installation, is there any big misconception, any common theme that you kind of hear from them, or something that you find out most of them didn't know?
A lot of them are worried about the latch system or the lower anchors. They want to double up and put the seat belts and the lower anchors together, and that's actually retarding the movement of the seat.
Right.
Seats are supposed to move some. The seat belts stretch up to 12 inches.
Correct.
Average stretch in a crash is 8 inches. So we're trying to keep the seat back up against everything, but
Yes.
it's going to stretch because it gives you a little bit of a ride down.
Right.
Same with the crumple zones on the front of the vehicle.
Correct.
A big one is we have new parents that want to put a rear-facing infant in the front seat in front of an airbag.
Right.
Big no-no.
Right.
That is a never, never, never. That's one of the few nevers that we use. You never put a rear-facing seat in front of an active airbag. There's
It's
still a
not
lot.
how it's designed, correct? I mean,
Well, that and the airbag, because the airbag's coming out
Yes.
at a set speed and
Right.
you're headed towards it.
Correct.
And the baby's head is right there at the
Right.
top because it's rear-facing.
exactly.
So we've had, luckily we don't see them very often, but you can go into any pediatrician office,
Right.
walk around the parking lot, and you'll see one in there. And I get this is something that's near and dear to my heart. So it's
Exactly.
something I've been involved with for a long time.
Right.
And we see the difference. When the program first got introduced just over 15 years ago, we saw actually a decrease in child injuries.
Right.
Because it's injury prevention. This is what we're in the business for.
And again, you can have the right tools, but if you're not using them the right way, it kind of really defeats that purpose, doesn't
Exactly,
it? Yeah.
exactly. So if you have a question, it never hurts to call us.
Sure.
If the person that answers the phone doesn't know the answer, they will forward it to someone that does, and we will definitely get back to you.
Good deal. And you have one more example?
I
think, to show
sure
us?
do. I have
Okay.
a bigger kid one.
Okay.
For when they're no longer need to be in the 5-point restraint,
Right.
but they still need to be in a seat.
Exactly. And you said that was till age 8?
Age 8 is the state law minimum.
Okay.
But size-wise, I
Right.
can guarantee you most of them traditionally need to be in one to probably 9 or 10.
Correct.
Unless they're raising giants. And there's a few of us out there that have those super big kids.
That's right.
Okay, this one here. And some of these actually are like booster seats too. They have a spot on the side for the seat belt to come through.
Gotcha. So again, as we said, it's not one seat fits all, be it vehicle or child, certainly.
Exactly. You have to get the one that fits everything up to its best.
Got it.
This is a backless booster.
Okay.
Fantastic. They're like $15 to $18 at Walmart or Toys R Us or wherever you happen to pick them up.
Sure.
They don't cost a lot. If you've got a 6 or 7 year old that's, even a small statured 8-year-old going, I don't want to ride in the baby seat anymore.
Right.
They're big enough to ride in this. This one goes up to 100 pounds.
Okay.
Super easy. Set the seat in it. There's no lower anchors. Child's in. Put the belt right across. It has a spot that says place belt here. Buckle it in. By the time they're in these, most times they can put themselves in.
Right.
All you have to do is just double check to make sure they've got it on them correctly.
Correct.
And then this picks them up in position so they're sitting taller in the seat.
Right.
This one it's strapped reverse for today, but it's got an extra little strap for a shoulder strap to pull it down a little bit if they need it.
Got it.
The problem is most children at age 8 are not tall enough to where they can ride with, and this is the gauge right here, if they can ride with their hiney against the back of the seat
Yes.
and their knees bend over the edge.
Right.
If they can't, they tend to slide down and slump, and what happens is the seatbelt rides up on their abdomen, can cause a lot of internal damage if you're in a crash.
So it's not necessarily their height in relation to the back of the seat or the headrest, correct?
It's the legs,
It's the legs. Okay.
to the front.
Got it. Okay.
Because if they tend to slump down, and they'll move the seatbelt because they'll ride on their neck, they'll
Right.
put it behind them,
Right.
which is bad too, because then you've got head and knees coming together in the event of a crash.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But super duper easy. This is one that, and another thing parents need to remember, if the child is not in the seat, it needs to stay buckled in the car. Because if not, it's a piece of flying debris that can catch the driver.
Right. And again, it's being safe and being aware of what you have in there and using it the proper way.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Good deal. Okay. Well, again, thank you for taking us through the 3 different examples you showed us. Again, great tips. And again, the biggest thing is, again, just making sure that it's installed properly. And if they have questions, we're contacting Fire and Rescue, correct?
Definitely.
Okay. And thanks again, Lieutenant Monroe, for all your help today. Great advice. And again, a great free service provided by Suffolk Fire and Rescue. And all you have to do is call, correct?
Exactly. Call, we'll be glad to get you set up.
Again, thank you for your time, and thank you for keeping everybody safe here in the city of Suffolk.
You're welcome.
Okay, and that will do it for this edition of Safety First. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. We'll see you next time.